Hi there, welcome back. Let's continue our discussion about the sampling method. I know it's a little abstract to understand the sampling procedure, so it's very important you do the reading and maybe do a little mind game to visualize how you would sample a population using the figures, the graphs I provided in the last slide, in the last video, so you can really understand this process. It's really important because that really decides the quality of your quantitative research. It matters less in qualitative research, but because for quantitative research we rely on the numbers, we want to generalize our result. It's really important you understand the sampling procedures. Now let's talk about the margin of error and confidence. Margin of error, it's a statistical estimate of what the population looks like and how close your results are to actual population. Remember, the whole sampling method is to select subject, which essentially is a subgroup of the population. Let's say you find out that among your subjects, they like apple over avocado, like 100%. Then how accurate can your result apply to the population? Most of the time, there is a margin of error. You don't accurately hit the population value. Let's say you evaluate the average height of a random sample of the US adult population. You measure the average of your sample is 6 feet 2, and you can't really say that's the population average. So what you can do is have a range saying that it's likely the population average will show up within the range you predicted with your sample. And that leads to our next concept. It's called confidence level. We usually set the confidence level at 95%. It's a really abstract for you to understand, but just remember 95% is the standard we set for our statistics software and were widely accepted by the science community. So what we say is we're 95% confident that the range we predicted with our sample, the real population average, usually, or the population value, whatever you're looking for, the mean, the mode, or whatever value you're looking at, we're 95% confident that the population true value fall within this range we predicted with our sample. It will be easier to understand with example, so let's talk about example. You probably heard about this during election seasons a lot. Presidential approved ratings, or even right after election season, you hear this a lot. So Gallup used a sample size of 1,500, predicted that for President Trump, his approval rate is 42%. Disapproval rate is 53%. Remember, this 42% and 53% are from the sample. The sample is 1,500. Even though you use the random sampling, you can say the population true value is exactly 42%. That's where we have margin of error. You don't have to know where we get this number. I usually will provide this even during quizzes or exams, so you don't need to worry about that. Just know when you have the margin of error, you put it plus or minus the margin of error to the number you get from your sample. So in this case, the approval rate will become a range 42 plus and minus 3. Disapproval rate will become a range 53 plus and minus 3. So Pew Research Center did the same research, and they had the sample size. Of course, this is research done 3 years before that. So this is research with the sample size slightly larger. It's 1,503 person. So sample size slightly larger, or the margin of error slightly smaller. Of course, this is approval rate for President Obama, not for President Trump. Again, 41% favorable rate, 57% unfavorable rate. Those two numbers are result from the sample, not the population. When you want to be confident that the population value will fall between a range, you can get the range by plus and minus the margin of error. That's what the result means. Let me show you. So if we're saying President Trump's favorability rate is 42%, we want to get the range. That will be plus and minus 3. It's from 39 to 45. And unfavorability, if we say our sample told us the unfavorability rate is 53%, Then we want to get the range for the population. We minus and plus the margin of error. We got the range 50 to 56. Now we are 95% sure the actual population falls within those ranges we got. Let's recap. Your sample will give you the value, Trump favorability and the Trump unfavorability, which are 42 and 53. But how can you generalize your result from the sample to the whole population? Your sample only had 1,500 people, and the population is millions and millions of people. What you do is plus minus the margin of error. Now you get the range for each value. So you're 95% sure, 95% confident actual population value for Trump favorability should fall within the range of 39 to 45. And you're 95% confident that the actual population value on Trump unfavorability should fall within 50 to 56. So if you hear some polling result for a campaign, people saying there is a statistical tie, even though the number is not exactly the same, that's usually because the range overlap with each other. Because we are confident the population value falls within the range. If the two range overlap, it's possible that the two value can be the same, or one can be lower, one can be higher. You can't really tell. Because we got the value 45% favorable rate for Trump, 43% favorable rate from Clinton, of course those numbers are not accurate, just hypothetical situation. When you put the plus and the minus 3% margin of error around it, you will see the two range overlap. So you can't really say who is winning. So that's what we call a statistical tie. And the margin of error is related to your sample size. If you look closely to this graph, we have the average at 50%, and that's where the sample mean lies, the 50%. And then you want to predict the population value, you will get the range by plus and minus the margin of error. What you can see is when you have a sample size of 96, the margin of error will be 10%. This is hypothetical, just relatively speaking. And the range for the population true value to fall, it's huge. But when you increase your sample size to 384, your margin of error became 5%. And if you look at the light purple color next to the dark blue one, the range for true population value is much smaller because the sample size increased. I'm sure you already see the trend here. If you increase your sample size again to 600, the margin of error will decrease again and again and again. So the best prediction we have for the population value here is the sample size that equals to 2,401 person. So it's the smallest range, the dark purple one on top. Because the goal of quantitative research is to understand the population through your sample. The population can be huge, your sample is smaller, you got a sample average. When you try to predict or generalize to the population, you don't use the one number, you use the range you get from that number. So margin of error decide how large the range is. The smaller the range, more accurate your result will be. So larger sample size is better than smaller sample size. I know it's very complicated and very abstract, but if you go through this process a few times, you will get it down. And now let's talk about error. Since we're never 100% accurate, of course there are different types of error. Understanding error is so important for science because every time when you apply something to real life, you need to consider how accurate you are and how comfortable you are with the amount of error you have in your research. The first type of error, of course, is sampling error. You may have, let's say if you're doing election study, you have too many Democrats and not enough Republicans, then the result you get won't match the population. And sometimes we say sample size matter, right? Then sample of 2.4 million must be better than sample of 50,000, right? But in reality, if you had 2.4 million sample, but you use the non-random sampling method, you actually won't get as a good result if you use random sampling, but with only 50,000 sample size. So when we talk about sampling error, it's important to remember sample size matters, but what matters more is the sampling method. If you want to have smaller sampling error, you want to use random sampling. Now, there are also non-sampling error, which means the error is not related to your sampling procedure. The first type is called measurement error. And the measurement error have two subtypes. I'm sorry, it's very complicated. Please stay with me. The first type is called random measurement error. It means the survey questions just give you different result across samples. It's very hard to detect. You have no idea why people give you different answers. Maybe this person not feeling so good today, and next time you ask him, he's feeling better. So those are all random. These are not something that you can control. You don't know if this person is answering a question on the phone, on the computer, or while this person is talking to other people, distracted. So you really don't know. Anything can contribute to random measurement error. So people give you the answer on the survey question that's not the true value. It doesn't really reflect their true attitude. So that's the type of error we have to live with. We all know survey is not 100% accurate. That's the first type of measurement error, which is not a sampling error because it's not related to your sampling process. I know it's a mouthful, but please stay with me. The second kind of measurement error is systematic error. It usually will happen when you have some wording that is biased in your question. That people are just give you the answer that's a little bit skewed from the truth. You might be able to figure it out and correct the error later on. Let's say if I always use a female researcher to do the phone interview, then maybe if I'm a female researcher is asking people's attitude about women, then everyone will give the answer slightly more favorable to women than they would if the researcher was male. So if you always use female researcher, the gender bias may lead to more favorable answer on the scale, which is not always accurate. But this is type of systematic error. Its result is wrong, but always in the same direction. And you can figure that out if you really look closely. Okay, I know when you read about this, it's very confusing. Let me use two figures to show you what it looks like. Systematic error means you are not measuring, you are not hitting the target. You are not 100% correct, but it's very reliable and always at the same direction. Random error can hit anywhere. You have no idea why you got that error, and we have to live with it. We can take effective measure to reduce random error. Those two types of error almost always exist in research. We can do our best to reduce systematic error, but not random error. And the last question I want to talk about is the problem of a non-response. You can randomly select people, contact them, send them an email, but they may ignore you. What does that mean? That means your result may be limited in terms of generalizability. You can only generalize to people who are willing to respond to surveys. Usually, people would ignore you if they are really not interested in the question you are asking. They will only answer when they're interested. So you see the people who respond and people who don't respond may just be different by nature. So that's something you need to consider. In any method where when a member of the population does not have equal chance of being selected, what we call the non-probability sampling, we will deal with non-response because those people are not included in your sampling procedure to begin with. Mostly used in qualitative data, so in those cases, those data cannot be generalized. There are a few ways you can get non-probability sample, like convenience sample, just ask people who have the time. Let's say if I ask you to do a survey, you probably ask your friend. That's a convenience sample. Or you put flyers out there, that's called volunteer sampling. People volunteer to be included. Or you can use purposive sampling, only ask people who wear red shirt today. Or use quota sampling, you have a few people from this classroom, few people from the other classroom, or a few people that's male, a few people that's female. You match the population, but you're not using any random number generator. That would be quota sampling. It's not a probability sampling. The last one would be snowball sampling. Basically, you ask everyone to ask their friend. So get your friend's friend to participate. That's all. I know it's a hard lecture, but thank you for staying with me. I will see you next week.